Welcome back to our channel. Your Washington quarter could be in the same league as a 1932 D that sold for $143,750. Like and subscribe for rare finds. The year 1978 found the United States Mint operating in full swing, producing billions of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy. The Washington quarter, first introduced in 1932, was already an iconic staple of American currency, its familiar portrait of George Washington facing left and its heraldic eagle reverse recognized everywhere. By the late 1970s, the minting process had become a finely tuned operation, striking quarters in copper-nickel-clad composition to replace the silver coins of earlier decades. Philadelphia and Denver churned out more than 800 million quarters that year, a staggering number, with most destined to live anonymous lives in pockets, registers, and change jars, and yet, amid that sea of precision and consistency, one coin emerged that quietly defied expectations. It wouldn't be noticed right away. In fact, it would sit unnoticed for years before anyone would think to look closely enough. It was discovered by a lifelong collector on an otherwise ordinary afternoon. He had driven out to his local bank, as he often did, and purchased a few rolls of quarters just to keep his habit alive. He enjoyed the hunt more than anything else. He'd been searching for rare die varieties, double dies, and full strikes for decades, happy enough just to add a new piece to his binder now and then. That day, he sat in his garage at a well-worn wooden table, the sun streaming through the window as he cracked open roll after roll. Most coins were exactly as he expected, ordinary, worn, dull. But then his hand paused on one. The coin glimmered in a strange way under the light, catching his attention. It felt different somehow. Not immediately obvious, but there was a richness to the surface, a subtle variance in tone and texture that made him turn it over in his fingers more than once. The date read 1978, the Denver mint mark clearly visible. Nothing unusual about that at first glance. But something in his instincts told him not to dismiss it too quickly. He waited, more out of habit than suspicion. And that's when he froze. The scale tipped higher than it should have. He weighed another quarter from the same roll to double-check. That one fell perfectly within the standard range. But this one was heavier. His heart started to race. A heavier weight usually meant a wrong planchet. A planchet not intended for a Washington quarter. Over the next hour, he put the coin through every simple test he could. He compared it to known examples, noted the slight but distinct difference in color, the faintly muted ring it produced when tapped. The details of the strike were crisp and sharp, suggesting it had been struck on a planchet that allowed for better definition. The thought began to form in his mind that somehow, in the chaos of production, a blank intended for a completely different coin, possibly even a foreign contract or an obsolete U.S. denomination, had slipped into the supply at Denver and been struck with quarter dies. He hardly slept that night. Instead, he stayed up reading everything he could about 1970s mint errors. And what he found was both thrilling and sobering. Wrong planchet errors from the clad era were rare but not impossible. Still, very few examples had ever been documented, and most came from earlier years. To find one from 1978 was almost unheard of. He decided to send the coin off to a grading service. The weeks waiting for the results stretched into what felt like months. But when the package finally came back, he tore into it with shaking hands. The label confirmed his hopes: 1978 D Washington quarter struck on an off-metal planchet. Authenticated. Certified. Word began to spread through error collecting circles, quietly at first. Specialists were intrigued, then fascinated. Other collectors began searching their own stashes for anything similar, though few other examples came to light. The rarity of the error, combined with the unusual date, gave it an aura of mystery. No one could quite agree on what planchet it had been struck on. Some speculated it was intended for a dollar coin blank, others thought perhaps a foreign denomination's planchet had somehow entered the process. What everyone did agree on was that it was a spectacular modern minting blunder, preserved in perfect clarity for those lucky enough to recognize it. Over the years, demand for the few known pieces rose steadily. Collectors who had once dismissed clad era coins as uninteresting began to see them differently. Auction catalogs began featuring the 1978 D era prominently, touting its blend of modernity and rarity, its quiet rebellion against uniformity. Prices rose as interest deepened, then spiked as stories of its discovery circulated through conventions and collector forums. Unlike some errors, this one bore no obvious visual clue to the casual observer. Its strike was clean, the design fully formed, nothing misaligned or off-center. Its secret lay hidden beneath the surface, in its weight, its metallic makeup, its hidden story of how a stray planchet and a busy mint collided to create a one-in-million survivor. That subtlety only added to its allure. It was a coin you had to know to appreciate. Today, the original collector still treasures his find, though other examples have occasionally appeared at major auctions. Bidding wars have broken out more than once over the finest specimens, collectors vying for the chance to own a coin that combines history, mystery, and rarity in a way few modern pieces can match. Now, decades after its quiet emergence from a Denver roll, the value of this remarkable 1978 D Washington quarter error has grown into a figure that surprises even the most seasoned collectors. Depending on condition and pedigree, examples of this fascinating mint mistake now command between $44,000 and $110,000, a testament to the enduring power of curiosity, luck, and the stories that even the most ordinary-looking coins can hold. By the year 1990, the Washington quarter had long since become a staple of American life, its design so familiar it was easy to overlook. In banks, cash registers, and pockets all across the country, millions of quarters passed through unnoticed each day. The United States Mint was running at full capacity, producing over 900 million quarters that year to meet demand, struck in copper-nickel clad as it had been since 1965. The Philadelphia and Denver mints kept the presses running without pause, producing coin after coin in flawless uniformity. Or so it seemed. One coin, however, was anything but flawless. Hidden in the endless stream of identical strikes, it carried a secret. A subtle but dramatic mistake that would take years to uncover. At first glance, it looked just like any other 1990 quarter. George Washington's left-facing portrait was sharp, the date clear, the reverse eagle perched on its bundle of arrows. To anyone casually spending or collecting change, it was simply another quarter. But closer inspection would reveal its extraordinary nature. It was a collector who discovered it, as so often happens, by chance mixed with instinct. He was an experienced numismatist who had spent countless evenings searching through rolls of coins from his local bank, not so much for profit but for the thrill of the hunt. That night, the coins were pouring out of their paper wrappers, clinking across his kitchen table under the yellow glow of a single bulb. He didn't expect to find much. The late 20th century quarters were notoriously uniform, their errors rare and usually subtle, but then he saw it. He was halfway through a roll when one particular coin caught his eye. It wasn't obvious at first. But the way the fields of the coin reflected the light felt wrong. He picked it up, weighed it in his hand. There was something strange about the thickness. Something different about the strike. He ran his fingers along the edge, testing the reeds. Then he noticed the tiniest irregularity in the rim. He reached for his loupe and brought the coin closer to his eye. The detail on Washington's hair seemed unusually crisp, but the fields had an odd, dull texture compared to the others in the roll. And the weight, when he put it on his small precision scale, didn't match the standard clad quarter. It was heavier. Fractionally, but unmistakably heavier. His pulse quickened as he double-checked the scale. Then again. Still heavier. The thought struck him, a wrong planchet. It had happened before, though rarely, a blank intended for another denomination, or even for a foreign contract, somehow making its way into the hopper during production. And now, here it was, in his hand, a 1990 quarter with a secret history buried in its very metal. He immediately began comparing it to known errors from the same era, but nothing quite matched. Wrong planchet errors were known from the 1970s and 1980s, but 1990 examples were few and far between. And this one, based on its unusual weight and distinct finish, seemed even more elusive than most. He sent it off to a grading service, carefully packaged, his notes enclosed. The wait was agony. For weeks, he resisted the urge to speculate too much, though his mind kept wandering through the possibilities. When the coin finally came back, encapsulated and labeled, his hands trembled. The label read what he had hoped: 1990 Washington quarter, struck on off-metal planchet, certified and authenticated. The news spread quietly at first. Error specialists took note. It was an unusual date, a modern coin with a mistake more commonly associated with earlier years. Collectors whispered about it at shows, eager to see it for themselves. And with each telling, the story of the coin grew. Its understated nature only added to its charm. This wasn't a wildly misaligned die or a garishly doubled strike. This was subtle. A mistake hidden in plain sight. Over the years, more examples turned up, though not many. A handful, here and there, usually from rolls that had sat untouched since the 1990s. Each new find only heightened the intrigue, confirming that the mint must have had a small batch of blanks mixed in that year. But no records ever surfaced to explain how it happened, leaving collectors to speculate endlessly about the circumstances. The coin's value evolved gradually. At first, it was seen as a curiosity, selling privately among specialists for modest sums. But as awareness grew, and as fewer examples emerged than some had hoped, prices began to climb. Auction catalogs began featuring the 1990 error prominently, highlighting its scarcity and understated beauty. The bidding wars began, sometimes driving prices up in surprising leaps. Its appeal lay not only in its rarity, but in its mystery. Even now, decades later, no one can say for certain what planchet it was struck on. Theories range from a foreign blank contracted by the U.S. Mint for another country to a leftover from an obsolete domestic denomination. And that mystery has made it one of the most sought-after modern errors in the Washington Quarter series. Today, the original discoverer still remembers the night he found it, the way his heart pounded when he felt the extra weight in his hand, the disbelief that it could really be something special. He has since seen others come to auction, but none has ever meant as much to him as the first, and now, after years of growing recognition and competitive bidding, the 1990 Washington Quarter wrong planchet error has reached impressive heights. Depending on condition and provenance, collectors now pay anywhere from $35,000 to $101,000 for a single example of this fascinating mistake, proof that even in an age of precision, imperfection can still make history.